Hey, I'm Chris, and I'm going to give you a quick overview on how to use QuickConverter. There have been a lot of changes since the last time I made a video, and so I think a new intro video is long overdue. So when you create a new account, the first step is you're going to want to import your information from QuickBooks. That's going to be your payees, which are like customers, other names, vendors, and employees. You're going to want to import your accounts and you're going to want to import your classes if you use them. Um, Quick Converter, as a side note, doesn't stay linked directly to QuickBooks. And what I mean is when you make a change in QuickBooks, it isn't automatically reflected in QuickConverter. The only way that information gets over to QuickConverter is if you do this process again. Same thing, if you make changes in QuickConverter, the only way for that stuff to go over to QuickBooks is through an IIF. So what you have to do is first we're going to go to QuickBooks and we go to File, we go to Utilities, we go to Export, we go to Lists to IIFs, and we're going to select our accounts, customers, vendors, employees, other names, and our classes. So what we do there is it asks us where to save it, and we're going to save it on our desktop in our samples, and I'm going to overwrite this file just like that. And we're going to go right back into QuickConverter, and we're going to import all of that data. And that's been imported successfully. You can see it's all here now. It wasn't there before and I didn't show you. You're just gonna have to trust me. But now step 2 popped up. So this is importing our transaction data. And it's gonna import, as it says right here, CSV, QBO, QVX, QFX, OFX, TXT. These three are essentially the same like data standard called Open File Exchange, Financial Exchange, Open Financial Exchange, pardon me. CSV can have a lot of different settings inside of it, and it can also be saved as a TXT file. Essentially, that's a spreadsheet. And you can take an Excel spreadsheet and just save it as a CSV. And it should work. There are only a couple cases where you might need to modify the CSV file for use in here. So let's go ahead and import a file. And I'm going to import a sample bank CSV. This one already has the headers inside of it. The column headers are named correctly so that QuickConverter can recognize them and import them like this very easily. So it has a date column, a description column, and an amount column. That's the minimum it needs. Of course, if you want your check numbers or you want to have memos in there, you can have those columns as well. If they're not named or you don't have a header or whatever, there is a, let me set the account real quick to get that out of the way. So that's the statement account that it came from. There is a window that'll pop up, and I'm going to show you. This is the window that pops up if it can't, if it doesn't recognize all those columns, the minimum 3 columns. And I'll have a separate video that explains how to use that. It's pretty powerful, and there's some extensive options in there. You can have multiple company files with QuickConverter, depending on your plan. And that is, we imported, told you a little bit about that. You can clear your data from here and on the server. There is something called match rules. This is like bulk editing. So if you have a lot of different transactions that are similar, like these 4 right here, then what we might want to have is a match rule to match them all. And then there's some other options here that are kind of a special case, like if the amounts come in backwards, which sometimes happens with some credit cards. You can disable the validation so that you can just type in whatever you want for payee or account or whatever. There you can disable special transaction types for customers and vendors. Those are payments, refunds, bill payments, and I think bill refund, something like that. You can swap the description in the memo, and we can show and hide columns. So I'll show you all the columns right there. So you can see it. And here I'll show you swapping the actual, the memo and the description column. If you see all the column headers, you can sort by the column header at pretty much any of them you want. And in addition to that, if you find it's a little too cluttered like that, but you want all of this to be displayed, you can also go to two-line mode. In two-line mode, you can still sort things by each of the columns if you want, but it breaks it down into a nice, it's better for small screens if you want. I like one-line mode, and I also like to have just these columns for my video here. And the last thing I want to show you about the display is splits, and it allows you to split a transaction like you would in QuickBooks. And you can see if a transaction split, it'll have this over the account instead. I'm not going to go into that right now either. That's going to have to save that for another video, but it's right there. Okay, so we'll close that. Now let's go into just setting up something for, let's say, A to Z supply. You can click here and see if they're in there. If they are, you can select them, or we can type in A to Z, or A, and you can just use the arrows to select the different ones, like that. You can use the arrows to navigate around, just like you'd want to do on a spreadsheet. We'll set an account on here, and we can scroll them if we want to. We can also make it wider if we want to, or narrower. And we might just want to have it be here for like equipment rental. The next one, ATM, we'll skip that one. That's how you enter the data. If you want to, there are two ways you can skip transactions from being imported into QuickBooks, or exported to QuickBooks, I should say. One is just leave the account blank. The minimum thing you need for getting the transactions from QuickConverter into QuickBooks is an account set here. If you don't have it, it'll skip it. The other thing you can do is you can click skip export, and you'll see it crosses the things out. It won't export those. At least it shouldn't. And this menu also has some other cool options in here, like creating a match rule on the fly, or copying and pasting, or clearing the stuff you entered. Let's go to match rules now that you kind of know how this works. We can click match rules, and we're going to create and edit match rules. This window is looks pretty simple, right? But there are a lot of options. Match rules are like bulk rules. So we're going to add a matcher, and we can see that with no text here, it's going to show you all the different things that you can select from. And we could select one like that, and it'll put the text into our match text for us, and it'll match that exactly. But sometimes, you see something that's like the Amazon ones, where each transaction number is after the Amazon.com or whatever, and you just want to match part of it. You can just match that like Big Corp, and that'll match every instance of Big Corp, even if there were many transaction numbers or some modified versions of them coming down the transaction list. So here we can set our payee, which is going to be Big Corp, and the account, let's say it's a programming work, and we won't use class or customer job. This will allow it to, this will be assigned it to be skipped. So it won't be exported if you select that. We can copy this, and you'll see it will copy that transaction. So Big Corp programming work. But maybe I want to do Jenny Hashimoto there, and instead I want to do Jenny here. That's our payee, and again, it's programming work, let's say. And you can keep adding them going down. Quick Add will, the next button here is called Quick Add, and what it'll do is it'll kind of try and roughly create a bunch of match rules for you based on the match description and I believe the payee you have. And so then you just go down and set your accounts, and you're done. And it's a quick way to add a bunch of new ones if you want. Import will allow you to import your match rules from one account, like your credit card, to, in this case, the bank account. It's really useful if you have different accounts with different rules set up for each one, but you want to share, like use a bunch of them, you don't want to retype them, just import, and you can select your other account. In this case, there are none in there because this is a new account on QuickConverter, but I could easily copy them across. So once we have all this set up, we can save and apply, and there it is. So you can see that it matched those, and if we scroll down, you'll see there's Jenny. We can easily also sort it by account, and there are, you can see it matched Jenny twice, which it matched this one, Zelle payment received from her, and this might have been like a check deposit or something, right? So it's pretty powerful. The other thing in match rules I want to go over really quickly is the partial text match that matched both of those, but it can match, like let's type in AT, it'll match ATM withdrawal and State Farm because there's AT right there. Now we could set that up as Ask My Accountant, let's say. But let's say there's a hierarchy, like a precedence, an order of precedence in here. So if I type in ATM again, there's no matches. Why is that? Because this is a lower precedent than AT. But if I move it above it, now it matches ATM, and AT doesn't match it at all. So that's how the match rules kind of work. And you can get an extensive list of match rules over time. You can also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you can match on description and memo at the same time in case you need to match against the memo. So we'll save and apply, and you can see that ATM withdrawal is now set to Ask My Accountant, and I think State Farm is also set to Ask My Accountant. All right. Let's see. I think that we've done a pretty good job here. I didn't create any new entities. Let me see if I can create a new entity here. So let's just create CSV Pharmacy. So here we're going to type in CSV Pharmacy, right? And it doesn't match anything because we don't have it in our payees list. It's not in other names or customer, employee, or vendor. So it won't show up. So we'll hit the Add New, and it automatically is going to put our text there. We're going to select our payee type. In this case, I'll just select Other. And you can add more information, all the information that you want, or most of it, and that will go into QuickBooks. But let's just keep it just the name. We'll hit Save. And then we'll go, I don't know, Ask My Accountant also, just to get it out of the way. So now this will export to QuickBooks. And we're going to get 2 files when we download it. So I'm all set. Let's say that's all I want to do. It's not going to export the rest of these transactions because the account is blank. It'll only export the top, what is that, 10. Let me hit download. Now it downloaded to the downloads folder. And here are the instructions. I'm going to show you how to do this right now, but in case you like it written down or forget or want to see that it pops up when you download. So new entities and transactions have separate instructions on how I recommend how to do it. And so we're going to go close that. Now we're going to switch over to QuickBooks, and we're going to import them. So we're going to go to File, Utilities, Import, IIF files, and it's going to say close all the windows, yes. And then we're going to select this one for the new entities, and that's our new entities. And that should, in there, should have, and it'll give you the list, 1 success, which is great. And there are no transactions in there. Of course not, because it was just entities. And if we go into our other names list, you can see CVS is now added. Great. So now let's add the transactions. And let me tell you why it's done that way. If we just import the transactions entities, if it doesn't find CVS Pharmacy in there or A to Z Supply or some customer or something, and it's in the transaction, it'll automatically create in other names. It won't create necessarily a vendor, a customer, or employee And if you want that thing to be that, or the account to be that account type, you need to create it in QuickConverter or in QuickBooks and then sync them so that they know what type it is and it's done correctly. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go through and change it, which is kind of a hassle. So that's why I export the new entities over. It makes it a lot smoother of a process. With transactions, I like to use this one. Oh gosh, I should have said this earlier. Always back up before importing. Always back up. It's just better if you don't like what it did or whatever, you have a point to go back to, a restore point. So let's click import. I'm obviously not going to back it up because this is just an example, but I would recommend it. And this is our wrong folder. So let's go home into downloads and transactions. So here we are with our transactions. We're going to double click that. Oh, nice and fast. And so let's go to our chart of accounts and into our bank, and we can see all 10 of the transactions are there. CVS Pharmacy is linked up correctly, and it's all done. I would recommend, of course, I'm going to say this again, if you're going to do another set of transactions in QuickConverter, I highly recommend exporting the QuickBooks lists again to QuickConverter, importing them in there. So QuickConverter's synced up and everything's good to go again in there. Otherwise, that's the basic intro. If you've got questions, reach out. If you run into a problem, hit a snag, or you think you found a bug or something, let me know, and I'll see if I can fix it for you. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a lot of extra time on your hands after using QuickConverter. Bye.